I'm here with Robert Crane, the eldest son of the late Bob Crane. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Tell me, this is the guy that we know. This is the guy the public knows.
Yep.
And then there was this other side of your dad. Were you aware that this was part of the equation, that he had another side?
I was. We had a unique father-son relationship. I saw, some films that, stag kind of films that most kids my age at the time, I was a teenager, 15, 16, 17 years old, did not see. So they thought, man, Bobby's a little different. They have a, but it was all good fun to my dad. It was like, instead of the sex talk that the father and son would have, this was my sex talk. He would turn on a 16 millimeter projector and go, there's Candy Barr. She's barred in Texas right now, but I've got the latest film on 16 millimeter. It's like, Dad,
Did you know that there was the other life going on outside of the marriage to your mother?
Yeah, I got inkling of it. He had his own dark room. He loved cameras.
Photography.
He loved video cameras later and videotape and home video. And so he had his little room and stuff. But, I saw some photos occasionally of some women he had been with, or, printing it from some other source.
How did you deal with that as a kid, especially as his son, to know that there was stuff going on outside of the marriage?
Not comfortably. I mean, on one hand, I know my dad's kind of acting like a big kid, and he's almost like a teenager, like me and my friends. On the other hand, wow, he's married to my mom, who's the rock of our family, and it's starting to come apart at the seams. And then I later think, should my dad have been married at all? Period.
Did Hollywood do that to him, the stardom, where it became kind of, there was just so much opportunity that he couldn't say no to it?
Yeah, that's the key word, is opportunity. He was just like a lot of guys.
Good-looking guy.
Yep, he was a good-looking guy, but he was like a lot of guys who, admire women, and they look around and all that, but being a celebrity and being famous after a while, it afforded him opportunities that most of us, don't get.
Tell me about him as a father, though, because this is the guy we know on the screen. And I certainly know because I grew up with Colonel Hogan. But as a father, what kind of a guy was he?
Just a big, fun-loving kid. Just loved to have great times. We had a pool league in our backyard, in the swimming pool in Tarzana, California. Wow. And we created this baseball league where we kind of hit half swung, a little rubber ball, and wherever it lands in the pool is a double, triple. We had a schedule. He did the box scores. He wrote a column. It's in the book. He wrote a column about the league, and back then, this is 1960, so I was 9. And there were only 8 teams in the American League and National League. But we had the whole schedule. He was a kid. Loved it.
Let's walk over here, and this is something a son should never have to see, but you were there that day when your father, his body was taken out of the apartment in Scottsdale. When you first got there on the scene, you had to ID him, didn't you?
You know what? Actually, the Ed Beck, the stage manager of the theater he was playing at, ID'd
Windmill
him.
Dinner Theater.
Windmill. ID'd him. By the time I arrived with 2 of my dad's attorneys, he was long gone. And in fact, as we were picked up at Sky Harbor and driven in, the police officer turned around in the front seat and faced us and said, I have to tell you, Mr. Crane is deceased. So,
what went through your mind, Robert?
total shock. We were the kind of family, like a lot of families, you watch the 6:30 news or 5 o'clock news or whatever, and it's always about someone else. It's never about you. So murder was so far from what we had ever experienced in our
And
family.
your dad was such a lovable guy and such a well-liked guy, a gregarious guy, that did you have any theory from the get-go who might have wanted to kill your father?
Well, my theory has always been, I've ruled out the jealous boyfriends and the Chicago hit mobs and all that stuff. It was a passionate murder. It was 2 strikes to the side of the head with what the police think is a tripod head. So only a couple of people would have thought of that immediately. Number 1 suspect in my mind, John Henry Carpenter, who was a videotape salesperson and friend of my dad's, was in Scottsdale at the time of the murder. He would certainly know about tripods And what was happening was my dad was making changes in his life. He was getting divorced from his second wife, and he was starting to shed some hangers on and people like that. And I think Carpenter fell into that category. So he had means and opportunity. Number two, the motivation, though, is my stepmother, my dad's second wife. They're in the middle of a really ugly divorce. She shows up 10 days before his murder, unannounced, with their son. Father's Day, knock, knock, knock. My dad opens the door. Patty, what are you doing here?
On the door of that apartment in
On the murder
Scottsdale
site.
where he was eventually killed.
So she cases the joint, I think. A key is missing. There's no break-in on the day of the murder. And they're gone after a day. My dad calls me, he says, "You'll never guess who's here. Patty." I go, "What?"
Did you think they were casing the place?
Yeah.
It's possible. Would your stepmother be above John Carpenter in your view, or are they on equal footing?
Pretty even, only because of the motivation for money. You know, it wasn't a vast fortune, but it was a very comfortable little pot. And instead of sharing it 50-50 in California, she got 100%.
Let's walk over here to this photo taken. This looks like a guy, one of the characters in the show, but that's you.
That's me, with hair, with hair.
Were you
yeah.
actually in the show during that, you were an extra in that?
I was, because I was 18 or 19 years old in this shot. And so technically I'm old enough to be, you know, in a soldier. And I was in the last season, the 6th season of Hogan's, in the background, you know,
Right.
on the bunk, watching, you know, Hogan create the next plan. You know, you'll see me occasionally, or I'd see myself. And it was fun. So that was how I spent my summer vacation.
How much of that guy, the character, was really like your father?
I would say about 75 to 80%.
No kidding.
Yeah.
A practical joker, quick
Yeah.
wit.
Quick wit, sarcastic, good-looking guy, the know-it-all, fast. You know, we got to go, do it. All-American guy, admires women. That's Hogan.
Have you reconciled that guy, your father, with the character and then what happened in his murder?
No, I still can't get I'm trying to. That's why I worked on this book with Chris Fryer, a longtime writer with me. And we're just trying to mine information out of it and go back and research and go through all these transcripts I have and everything, because I'm trying to put the puzzle together.
There's some surprises in that puzzle that have come out in the book.
Yes.
And what would they be?
Well, let's see. One of the, I guess we have a chapter called CSI, Crime Scene Ineptitude. It was 1978. It was pre-DNA, pre-really extensive blood testing. The Scottsdale Police Department let us, the attorneys, my dad's attorneys and myself, walk around the crime scene. My dad's body was gone. We're touching things. It was a hot summer night, end of June. I took a 6-pack of beer from his refrigerator because I thought, well, I'll need that tonight. I'm going to be sitting by a pool and crying. So I took that, took other things, touched suitcases.
Contaminated scene.
Totally contaminated scene. Left and, you know, walked into the murder scene, the bed. It looked like a Japanese flag, you know, the red circle. And I saw brain matter on the wall.
This was a violent killing.
Oh, man, yeah.
How hard is it for you now to reflect on this and relive it?
Well, you know, we all keep getting those forks in the road, and this was another fork in the road, and I've always tried to get past everything. I don't like the word closure. I really dislike it because, you know, the widow gets the folded up American flag placed on her lap at the ceremony, you know, everything's okay. No, it's not. She just lost her husband, she lost her brother, she lost the father of her children, whatever. No, but you got to keep living. You got to move forward with life. I just read the Martin Short book, the comedian, and he's had a lot of tragedy, but he keeps going, you know?
What would you
can't
want us
stop.
to know about this guy that maybe we have never really known?
Small town guy, overwhelmed by Hollywood, drove himself, no assistance, no limos, stood in line at the bank to make a deposit in his Hogan uniform during lunch.
Left the set, went
Yeah.
out, didn't think anything of it.
I'll be right back. You know, in Hollywood. It's like, Dad? You know, you need a limo to the airport? No, I'll drive myself. Leave the car there.
Just a good guy.
Yeah, good guy. Just one of us.
Misunderstood, and are you uncomfortable with the film and all of the characterizations?
I happen to love the film.
You do?
And I'll tell you why. One of my favorite films was Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel back in the early 70s. That film and Autofocus should be a double feature because that is the complete male sexual revolution from the 40s through the 70s. And when I view Autofocus as just a film about guys, it's perfect. Yes, it was a Paul Schrader film. He never met my dad. I was the only person on the set who ever knew my dad, so I worked on the script with him a little bit. And, but as a study of male sexuality, yeah, it was great. It was a great film. I didn't have problems with it.
The book, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, the book is really, it's like a fine layered lasagna, multi-layered. So yes, my dad obviously is the focal point and the guy on the cover of the book and his image and everything, but it's much more, it's about family over 50 years. It covers 50 years of my life. And that's family. It's watching my mom as a rock, trying to keep our family together, my sisters, my wonderful stepdad, who my mom married later, and I learned so much from, I still do. And life, through college, girlfriends, wives, cancer. It's a journey. It's a 50-year journey.
You miss him, don't you?
Yeah, all the time.
I can tell. Anything about that moment you remember?
Just look at these smiles. I mean, we're standing we're at the, here's the fake snow, at Stalag 13 and the wall, and there's up above is the guard tower. And we're just, we're having a great time. He's in his element as Hogan. I'm spending my summer on the set, in Culver City, while kids my age had real jobs for the summer. This is my job. I'm an extra in Hogan's Heroes, the kind of show I would have watched as a kid. I love combat.
And I did watch it.
Rat Patrol. I watch Hogan.
Robert, thank you.
Thank you
Best
so
of luck
much.
with the book.
Thank you.
You for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.